Tēnā koe, Deputy Prime Minister. How are you?
I'm great. Look, we've made it through 2025, and well, with a couple more days to go in the parliamentary year, and I feel like we're finishing quite strongly.
For sure. Now, looking back at the last year, I guess for you, I mean, what is something that kind of stands out in terms of what you've achieved as a government, what you've achieved as ACT leader as well, from the last year?
I look at this last quarter and I see the earthquake strengthening laws, the Resource Management Act, the Arms Act, the Holidays Act, the methane targets, and a couple of other things, the Regulatory Standards Act. They're all things that ACT has campaigned on for up to 20 years. In many cases, it was us against everyone else at the start. And a little bit like the euthanasia thing, like the time finally came. And so we're really pleased that we're driving a lot of change at the moment, and we think it's going to make New Zealand a much better place.
Obviously, there was a lot of, especially from Te Ao Māori, a lot of criticism around the role or lack of the treaty within RSP and kind of elevating or prioritising corporate interests or property rights. That's what the critics have said. Can you kind of just explain to me and to the audience around why RSP is needed and why you don't think it is going to erode treaty rights or Māori rights and interests?
Well, I think it's probably good for Māori rights more than anyone. All it does is say, if you are a maker of a law, say you're a minister or you're the chief executive of a government department making a regulation, then you have to publish a statement. We call it a consistency accountability statement. And that statement has to be really honest about, does this affect people's liberties? Does it affect their property? Did we think about all the options? What are the costs of this law, and what are the benefits, and who pays those costs and who gets those benefits? And they have to put that report to Parliament, so when MPs debate things, they have a complete knowledge. And also, not only do MPs know it, but the public know they know it. So it gets rid of that, oh yeah, well, So it's actually about transparency and democracy. Then there's the Regulatory Standards Board, which says, if you don't do your job and actually publish that statement fully honestly, then there's a group of people who are like, experts in this area, regulatory economists, lawyers, who can call you out.
Weak leadership, elaborate on that. Who are you talking about when you say that?
Anyone who's been a critic of this bill and has made the kinds of criticisms that it has, said that it's anti-Māori or whatever, or, you describe what they said before. You're a good journalist. You said, look, they've said it prioritises corporate interests. Well, actually, it prioritises the interests of anyone who might be affected by a law. And to be honest, if you're a big corporation, you're less worried about government regulations than a ma and pa business, a small organisation, because a big corporation can find a way around. A smaller organisation usually pays a higher cost trying to navigate bureaucracy.
In terms of the amount of submissions that were made against RSP, I know we've talked about this a lot in the past year. I mean, how can you say, and I'm asking you, how can you say that so many of those submissions were in opposition? Are you just saying that they don't know what they're talking about?
Yeah, for the most part, they don't.
Really?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, look at how many of them were generated. Greenpeace, that's one organisation. You go on their website and you tick a series of boxes. So you tick, do you want to have kia ora or hello? And then you tick, 4 different statements, all of which were untrue statements about the bill.
How are they untrue?
Well, I don't have them in front of me, but I read them at the time and I said, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. If we want to go through them, we can bring them up and do that, but yep. And then after you tick the boxes, it writes a submission for you, and you then cut and paste that and put it on the parliamentary website, and you've made a submission. Now the problem is that you haven't written any of this. The things that you've sent in are actually wrong, and what you have done is given your email address to Greenpeace, who are now very happy because they're going to be emailing you for a long time. So that's one of the submissions right there, and there were tens if not hundreds of thousands that were created that way by different organisations. And then people say, oh look, 95% or something, whatever percent, against the bill. Well, the truth is, there was, I don't know, 60,000, 100,000. There's 5 million people, so 1 or 2% maybe went through this process.
So what is the plan with schools and lunches, and what the hell happened there this year?
Well, what happened this year is that one factory went bankrupt in the first few weeks, and we had to scramble to cover that. So there were problems in term one. We never denied that. We said, look, here's what's happening. I mean, we couldn't give out all the details at the time because we were in sensitive negotiations to get the thing going again. But we've been pretty open about everything we can say. There was a contractor. Their job was to boil up the food and make it en masse and then get it pushed out by Compass to the rest of the schools and their reheating stations and so on. That was all going to go great, except these guys never delivered the volumes that they signed up to deliver, and it turned out they didn't have the money. Then they went bankrupt. They also had like about 600 tuck shops which had to close down overnight. So that's sad for people at that business, but Compass came in, they bought what was left of that business. They managed to work with the kaimahi, the workers at that factory, and by the start of term 2 they had production up to where it needed to be. We haven't really had any problems since then.
What happened with the mouldy? What was the mouldy lunch? Tell us your side of the story, the recent ones.
Well, I don't have a side of the story because I haven't been involved in the food safety investigation or the school or any of that. But basically, what we know for sure is that there were about 20 lunches that were served and they were mouldy. The question is, where did they come from? They all came from one area of the school. There were several places where the lunches were distributed, and that area of the school was a place where the school was known to store lunches so that kids could go back after and get a second helping. The same lunch had been served 4 days earlier, so what we think happened is that some lunches were left in that area, and then somebody said, oh yeah, here's one, take that one. And of course it was actually 4 days old. That was basically the problem.
Okay.
Now, we can never prove that, but there's no other theory about what happened. Meanwhile, 15 other schools got the same lunches on the same day and had no problems.
What is the plan for election year next year, and what can we expect? What can we expect from that?
We're going to work like hell to keep the government and make it better. And I think that this country has a couple of big problems that need to be solved. Number one is, who are we? So we've seen that this year, all this division. Are we tangata whenua and tangata tiriti, and going to be forever divided by our founding documents into two categories of human? I don't believe that is a successful program. The thing that annoys me the most is that people have said, and there's people out there who believe that I'm opposed to Te Ao Māori, to tikanga, to Matadanga Māori. I'm not opposed to those things. They're not really a big part of my life, although one day I'm going to release the video of me singing Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes in Te Reo at my 5th birthday, just to really mess with people. So, I grew up with a lot of that, right? But I'm not opposed to it. I just think that people should be able to choose how they express themselves culturally, which actually is what Māori have been fighting for the last 150 years. So we're kind of on the same side.
Ngāti here, that's where you're from.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for you to go back to Ao Māori?
There's been, yeah. Well, there's been plans all year. I've been talking to Te Reo, and there's been at least 3 planned times. Once was taken out by a storm, once by Air New Zealand, and once we just couldn't make a date work. So the times that I've been up to the Te Tautokoro this year, all 3 times we haven't been able to do it, but we'll get there. I mean, it's been there for 100 years or more, so I'm sure it'll...
Cool, so it's on the agenda?
Yeah.
And what do you hope to get from that?
Oh, I just think it'd be nice to see a part of my heritage. I hope to go to Scotland one day, It's just interesting to think about where you came from.
So I said at the beginning that or like a highlight. So can you just give me, not a politician version, a quick version, or an ake, a highlight, an iho, a down, maybe negative, and an ohorere, something that surprised you?
Well, I'm not stupid, so I'm going to say that my engagement was my ake. So that's really, really sweet to finally be engaged.
Congratulations.
And looking forward. Yeah, now we're into wedding planning, which is much worse. But so no, it's really exciting. I'm lucky in that sense. And then a bad thing. It's actually been a really solid year. I mean, I've been happy with the year. I think it's sad that treaty principles didn't go further. I think that it inevitably will, much in the way that other bills that have started unpopular have come around, and I think because people believe in the underlying principles it will, but hey, that's sad they did that. And a surprising thing, far out, it's I'm not sure. It's funny.
Come on, say something. Say something spicy.
You said it. Well, you know, I want to say I'm surprised that Te Ao Māori blew up the way they did.
True,
But,
why are you surprised by that?
But, you know, it's probably not a good example because their core mission is that they're not about education, housing and jobs. If they're about education, housing and jobs, you know, things that people actually want, especially in the communities they represent, then I think they'd still be together. But if you don't have a purpose or something else to fight, you end up fighting each other, and that's what happened.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Seymour.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for another year. I'll see you back on the tiles next year.
Yeah, can't wait.
But have a good break, eh? And make sure you do have a break.
Yeah, you too.
Cool. Thank you.